Yesterday, we were out at the mall in Washington, D.C., and I have to play this Capitol Police voicemail. Stu, you wouldn't believe what we went through yesterday. You would not believe it. First of all, let me tell you something. We saw and met people from California, Oregon, people who are not wealthy people.
No.
Who got
Texas,
into their car,
Oklahoma,
and drove. Utah, Kansas, Kentucky.
In some cases, driving 24 hours straight just to get there.
You know, I wanted to be here. I felt we had to be here. We had to make. I mean, it was amazing. The people that were there were truly amazing. But here's what was so fascinating to us. We're going around the mall and or the Capitol, and they're having to drop us off for security and everything else. So they're dropping us off a certain place, and I see a crowd, and this one is with their back to the Library of Congress, and I said, well, that's a pretty good crowd. And what was there? Probably 2,000 people at that one, 3,000 maybe.
On the backside of the Capitol?
Yeah. The first one.
Yeah.
When we first got there. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's not a bad crowd. And Mark, the head of my security, said, well, the one you're speaking at first is on the other side. And I said, what? And he said, yeah, it's they've separated them. I said, why would they separate them? I don't know. That's what they've just done. They've separated them. So we continue to drive, and there's about 10,000 to 12,000, 15,000 people at that side. We're stunned because, honestly, let's be frank about this. This came up last week. Mm-hmm. It was a Wednesday in the middle of the day. And the way it was originally promoted was it's going to be a Lincoln-Douglas debate. And it goes on from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I don't know anybody who has that much. I don't know anybody who has time to even go, let alone go all day. And I had not heard about it. We kind of live in this world. Hadn't heard a word about it. So we were expecting about 500 people. We come around, and the Tea Party Patriots have done just an amazing job, and all of the Tea Party groups that were involved. And they really had this thing organized, and they had it right. And so we come in, and as I'm getting ready to go on the stage, one of them says to me, Glenn, did you hear the Capitol Police phone call yet? And I said, no. And she said, listen, this is the message I got. And she goes back to her message in her phone, and she says, listen to this. And she plays it. And this is the message from the Capitol Police in the morning.
Officer Sandra Brown, Capitol Police Special Events. It's 9:28 a.m., June 19th. There are members of your group that are moving into other areas on the Capitol grounds, joining other groups on the east front of the Capitol. That activity is not authorized. Your area is the west front of the Capitol. Have either yourself and your 12 marshals keep your group in your area only. You cannot join other groups and other areas that have been permitted to other groups. If you have any questions, call the office. 222 police personnel will be on site to take whatever action necessary to keep order and peace on our grounds. I will try to, again, reach you by phone.
Is that amazing?
So you could not go from one rally around the Capitol to the other rally. You must stay in your own area, so they couldn't show how many people were
They had them fenced in like little cattle. I'd like somebody who's an attorney. Is there anybody in the set within the sound of my voice? Get this to the ACLJ, or if there's anybody in the sound of my voice that wants to take this on, I think somebody needs to file some civil rights litigation against these guys. We have a right to assemble. We have a right to associate, and we have a right to petition our government. What they were saying was, you have a permit to say these things over here, and you don't have a right. Your people, not that you don't have a right to go protest, your people who are standing at your rally don't have a right to go onto the public sidewalk, walk around the side of the building, and then come and join another group and listen to them speak. It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if, you had some evidence that Group A was going to Group B and trying to sabotage it or stir up trouble or whatever. That makes sense.
They were together.
If you remember, they're together. They both believe the same thing. And
they're the same group.
Yeah, and think about the other thing. We did the Restoring Honor and had Black Panthers walking around, and they didn't do anything about it. They let them walk right up into the event.
Encouraged them. Encouraged them. I've never seen.
That's right. The Secretary of Education was speaking at one of their freaking rallies, not with Al Sharpton,
and marched with them.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if anybody says, "I want to make sure that this gets to the ACLJ," and anybody else who is filing litigation against the IRS, if you think that they've learned their lesson, if you think the intimidation has stopped, it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
The restrictions were insane yesterday. They told them they couldn't distribute water to anybody because if you would have given it to one congressman, and you didn't offer it to everybody there, all 20,000 people or however many people were there, then it was considered an illegal gift to a congressman.
Yeah, the congressman.
A bottle of water.
It was so hot and everybody was sweating and everything else. And somebody came up and handed me a bottle of water. And I don't remember which congressman, it may have been Steve King, and went to hand him one. And he said, no. What do you, why not? They are all over us for ethics violations. What are you talking about?
They were all threatened with that.
They were threatened that if you even take a bottle of water from anyone, we're going to report that as a gift. Now, they're not threatened by the Democrats. They were threatened by the Republicans. So the GOP progressives were the ones that were threatening these congressmen. I said yesterday in a second speech, there's one speech that is up there. I haven't seen the second one yet. I'm sure it's someplace. But I gave a second speech on the other side of the Capitol. And in that second speech, I talked a little bit about this. And I said, look, these guys are the Kurds. We cannot be George H.W. Bush. We told them to stand up in our name. These guys are really life, fortune, and sacred honor. They really are risking it all. They know that they don't have a career left. The GOP is going to hammer the leaders. When they come up for re-election, all of the GOP money is going to go to defeat these guys. And there's 70 of them. But there's probably 10 that are the real outspoken, right out in front leaders. And they're really, the GOP has the names now of the 70. But they're going to all be targeted. And they were targeted big time yesterday. The progressives are out in record numbers. And somebody has got to file. We have to start thinking differently. The civil rights movement is not about blacks in the 1960s. That was just one of the latest civil rights movements. The civil rights movement started with Moses. It was what the Pilgrims were civil rights activists. They took the beating. They were being called a Puritan was mocking them. It was the N-word of their world. That's what they were marching about. That's why they changed their life. That's why they came over here. The civil rights movement does not belong to the hippies of the 1960s. The hippies had nothing to do with it. They co-opted it. The communists co-opted it. Martin Luther King was not using anything from the Communist Manifesto. He was using things from the gospel. And he wasn't asking for free stuff. He was asking for equal opportunity, equal justice. That's what we're asking for. Rule of law. You have to redefine the civil rights movement, because somebody said to me yesterday after I gave my speech, some reporter came up and he said, Glenn, you've got the AP scandal, you have this scandal, you have Benghazi, you have the IRS, yada, yada, yada. What's the biggest scandal? What's the one people should concentrate on? And I said, civil rights. Each one of those scandals boils down to one of the amendments in the Constitution has been violated. If you violate an amendment in the Constitution, you are violating my civil right. And we have to start moving that way. And if you don't start moving that way, it is going to be too late. When the police can say that, I'm telling you, when the police will leave a message like that, they have been so emboldened and so empowered that they can stomp on your rights. I'm telling you, the atmosphere has changed. When we went to do 828 and Restoring Honor in Washington, we had the police on our side. We had the people on our side, and they were almost apologetic. It was just the people at the top. That doesn't exist. I did not shake the hand of one police officer or one Capitol Police guy yesterday. Not one.
They were nasty.
Not one looked at me kindly. Not one.
They did scream at us quite angrily, however.
Yeah. We were talking and we were walking across the street, and one of the guys just barked at me. And like I haven't been barked at before by a police officer, except in New York. And I stopped and I said, "I'm sorry, officer, excuse me, what?" And he said, "What do you think those barricades are out there for?" And he just started dressing me down. And I said, I just looked at him stunned, and I said, "Gee, I'm sorry, officer. We sure didn't mean to cause any problem there. Thank you very much." And we walked on, and his friend kind of gave him a look like, don't, man, don't do that. And did you get that impression?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was his friend or his other coworker, his other officer. Well, that was the nicest we were treated by any officer. The atmosphere has changed, and you have to understand that. You are not the power structure by any stretch of the imagination. And what I've been trying to get across to people, and I think I finally, for as many words as I say, about 90% of them should be thrown out because I'm a poor communicator. I over-communicate, and I still can't make it clear. I think I finally understood it yesterday how to say this to you. When I said the economy would collapse in 2006 or 7, I couldn't tell you exactly what it was going to look like. But when 2008 came, everybody was like, wait, what did you say? And nobody understood it, and everybody mocked it. When I said that, they would... the guy with a push cart that set himself on fire in Tunisia, that was the Archduke Ferdinand moment, and it would spread across the Middle East, and it would destabilize the Middle East and then the rest of the world. I didn't know exactly what it would look like, and it was so far out of the box that nobody understood it at the time, and so they mocked it. I'm telling you now, this is a civil rights movement, and you have to start moving that way, and you have to embrace this reject the idea. Do not allow the Al Sharptons of the world to occupy the space of the civil rights movement. He is a clown. He is a clown. It has nothing to do with the things that came after. Martin Luther King was the real deal. Just about everything else after has been a joke because all they're about is power and fame and money. You have to be about the real rights. Martin Luther King knew he wouldn't finish the march. He knew it. He sealed it with his blood. And you know what? I hope to God that never happens to any of us, but it might. But we're ahead. Your civil rights are being violated. It's not about scandals. It's not about scandals. It's about the violation of civil rights. Start thinking that way, moving that way. Quite honestly, litigating that way. There's an awful lot of power behind the Constitution when you demand that it is lived by, and when you can actually show the oppression that comes when you don't.